Okay, so the system that I came up with was called RAP Connections, and that stands for Responsive Application for Peer-to-Peer Connections. So this is the initial idea. Based on the surveys that I previously conducted, I determined that the product or system should be non-intimidating and easy to use, take advantage of existing community structures, and provide prompts to engage with others within a social network. And so this system is a closed messaging system through which older adults living within a retirement community can connect with each other. It's designed to enhance the lives of residents within those communities by integrating messaging technologies and foster the creation and nurturing of social networks. It would be delivered on a tablet provided within the homes and apartments of residents. Feature things like instant messaging, calendar system with notification of community activities and scheduling. So to facilitate both online and face-to-face social interactions. So there are competing products out there, but one of the things that I noticed with these competing products is that they either have a lot of features in them, like a TV remote, health tracker. I wanted to keep things simple. And the other competitor is essentially a large font kind of image tablet, but it was quite a prohibitive cost. And so what I was thinking was that my system would be much simpler to use and potentially cheaper. Again, it would be a closed system. So with the generative sessions, I chose 3 of them: immersion, card sort, and brainstorming. One of the limitations I came across was the number of participants. So I did find 3 participants. The first one is a 71-year-old female who was fully retired, lives in a retirement community, and is comfortable using laptop, smart TV, cell phone. The second participant is a 77-year-old male who was partially retired, self-employed, worked part-time, lives fully on his own, and is very comfortable using PC, laptop, cell phone, actually spent a lot of time working in the electronics industry. The third participant was a 66-year-old male, also self-employed and living on his own, and comfortable using laptop, cell phone, and judicious user of messaging apps. The first session was done immersion with VA, completed in a one-on-one setting, and it was chosen for a number of reasons. The environment she lived in was a direct match for the scope of the idea, and the data gathered could directly inform whether that idea satisfied an actual need or a perceived need. So rather than testing a prototype, I chose to look at the viability of the idea. So I contacted VA, set up a date and time for a visit. I ended up taking photographs of the living environment and then spent the next 45 to 60 minutes talking about her life and recording observations. So these are a few of the images taken from that visit. The first 2 are of the common area, so Arts and Crafts Center, and then a common living room area with a television, TVs, and then her home environment, focus on the laptop, the smart TV, and then pictures of her family, just to show how important that is for her. The observations that she remains connected to her home country through her family and online. She confidently accessed YouTube videos using the Apple TV keyboard on the smart TV. She spoke of her experiences trying to move back home, and about her love for her home country, and backed up these stories with printouts and screenshots of internet searches that she had. But she likes living in that retirement community and participating in their activities. She appeared to be quite comfortable with technology, and from our discussions, communicating digitally within a closed environment didn't appear to be important or useful to her. When asked how she connects with her neighbors, she stated that she would see them in person around the building or in the common area, or go to see them directly. So the value of this idea for her would be minimal. And the product, system, or service which would enhance communication with loved ones who are far away may in fact be more beneficial. The second session was a card sort, and this was completed with both KE and TM. And it was a word card sort, picture of some of the words down below that reflected personal values. I chose this particular method and this strategy. Research has shown the values a person finds significant and that they adopt can reveal insight into their consumer behavior. So the goal was to see if any of the values chosen aligned with the perceived benefits of the initial idea. So participants sorted 50 cards into categories, and the words on the cards that aligned with the intended system were family, autonomy, communication, friendship, and commitment. But of course, there were other words thrown in there. They were to sort these words into categories: very important to me, or not important. And if more than 10 cards were placed in the first category, they were asked to narrow down their selections. The results were then photographed, and the top 3 choices in each category were extracted. So here I've got a picture of the empty card sort platform on the left, and then some animations of both of the participants completing the card sort. And then the results. So both participants categorized as very important to them: achievement, health, and faithfulness. The only word from the product values list that showed up as very important was family, and that was only for one of the participants. None of the other words were deemed very important. So I would have liked to have had more participants to be able to explore this further. Health was a common theme, however, and both participants talked about kind of comparisons to their friends, comparisons to their family, and the need and the desire to want to be able to live longer and live kind of pain-free and healthily. The final session was brainstorming, and that taps into creativity. And so in this one, I took a further step back and I asked the participants to generate as many ideas as possible related to the original design problem. I wanted to take a look at it from their perspective. So the general rules of brainstorming applied. There were no right or wrong answers. They were to reserve judgment until the end. And so as the facilitator, I wrote the design problem on a poster board and asked participants to write down their ideas on Post-it notes to place up on that board. And then we would discuss all the ideas while being recorded. I have to admit, the idea and the concept for the participants to write down their ideas was kind of lost. And so I ended up taking notes and placing them up on the board so that they were all visibly available to them. The brainstorming session was quite interesting. We ended up with a number of quotes. For example, one thing might be to think of a difficulty that they're having, come up with something for them. They even went back and looked at the definition of an older adult who was not digital or included in the digital society, and then narrowed it down to, if seniors find it intimidating, add it to something they're already doing without even knowing it. So then they talked about what seniors do now. This final quote I found was really fascinating. After probably a good 25 minutes, we got to what happens when we age. Sometimes the memory goes. Generally, as you get older, you take more medication. Sometimes people forget, so they have those dishes for pills for days of the week. So on Sunday, you fill the whole thing, and every day you take one. But you're also thinking digital world. You could come up with something like this. And one of the participants then reached out, grabbed any material that was closest to him, and then built a rudimentary prototype of a digitalized kind of pill box. I was actually quite excited about this. I thought it was really fascinating. The brainstorm session kind of took on a life of its own, and it became a making, telling, and acting session, where again, the participant made a prototype and then told a whole story around how it would fit into that design problem. The discussions and the activities in this session were just organic, and they just let out a stream of consciousness, and I was there to record it. It was interesting because it reinforced that there's little value in creating a product without fully understanding the needs of the stakeholders. It also highlighted the importance of video recording everything, because you never know what can pop up. So the results for me, a lot of themes came out of the brainstorm. Some of them were relevant, but the part that clicked was capitalizing on an existing schema or existing behavior or thought pattern to guide the design of the product, system, or service. I thought that was brilliant. It's something I hadn't really considered thoroughly enough, I think, in my initial idea design process. Health, again, appeared as a prominent theme that I would explore further. So in my debrief, for the immersion, I would want to complete more sessions with different participants in different living communities. Again, basing the conclusion on one person is probably not the feasible and I guess scientifically valid. Same with the card sort. I would distribute that online. That's a tool that can be distributed probably more widely to get more participants, again, to look at those personal values. And then the same thing with brainstorming. I would like to conduct that session with a larger, more heterogeneous group. So as I mentioned, the whole common theme that came out of these was health. And when I went back and looked at the big picture, I started with my initial idea. I have these sessions, and two of them kind of linked into this larger common theme. The immersion session was also quite valuable, but I found it quite interesting that I was able to pull out a different theme from what the original intention was. And now I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much. It was a really interesting